They're anxious, excited, and a little scared.
I gotta say bye to my mom. You're gonna start crying now, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I'm not gonna cry. You have a
This afternoon, a group of Nepean High School students said their goodbyes to family and friends as they left for Mirabel Airport near Montreal. Tomorrow morning, they'll fly south to the Dominican Republic for the March break. But as Newsday's Chris Goldrick tells us, these students won't be spending time on the beach. They're on a mission to help others.
Jane and Thea are going to be working in that corner.
In the library at St. Paul Catholic High School in Nepean, they're getting ready, packing school and medical supplies to take south.
All the boxes have to have either a O or a Q going to Ocoa or Quisqueya.
The students have been planning this trip to the Dominican Republic for well over a year. But now, just a few days before departure, Luc Despetit, a teacher and trip organizer, is worried they may have more supplies than they're allowed to take on the plane.
It'll be close. It'll be very close.
For the students, this trip isn't only about visiting a foreign country and delivering much-needed medical supplies. Many expect it will also be a journey of self-discovery. Luc Despetit has organized 6 of these trips for 2 weeks, taking groups of St. Paul students to an isolated, poverty-stricken region of the Dominican Republic. Despetit devotes countless hours over the school year, but he's committed to helping people who live in poverty and committed to helping his students experience and understand it. He remembers some students' reactions the first time they see people with so little.
You start talking to them and you open up, and then, this guy cried in my arms longer than anybody on this trip, and those are the precious moments, and those are the moments you cherish and you bring back, and that make the experience worthwhile.
On Saturday, Despetit and another teacher, Father Quinn, and a group of grade 11 and 12 students will fly to Santo Domingo. Then it's on to small, isolated towns near San Jose de Ocoa. There's no electricity. Food is in short supply. For 2 weeks, the students will be distributing the supplies and working alongside local residents on development projects supported by Christian charity groups as well as the Canadian government. The work will be supervised by Father Lou Quinn, a Canadian who has lived and worked in the region for 40 years.
I think we all know it.
Rob Goyette and Alana McGoldrick are both going.
This is something I think we all felt we wanted to do and we had to do.
I feel it's really important for me to understand and for everybody to understand what living in a less fortunate situation is all about, and learning to be grateful for what you have and not be guilty for what you have.
The students will be traveling light, taking only the clothes that fit in their carry-on luggage. That frees up room for the supplies, but also serves another purpose.
Students are going down there without all the t-shirts they would want. They have to maybe be careful and become aware of, this is what I have. So I think it adds a lot to the experience.
We have good days and we have bad days, but they will continue to be bad days if you don't put the issues on the table.
Since September, the students have been meeting twice a week, getting advice, mentally preparing themselves for the trip, and studying Spanish. Paula Dunn was part of a group that did the same trip 2 years ago.
What really shocked me was the people's attitude in spite of their poverty. I mean, we look at what they have and we think, gosh, they have nothing, but they have, in terms of culture, in terms of their value for family, they have a lot more than we have, I think.
For months, there's been fundraising. Last week, it culminated with the Casa Cafe, a variety show in the school gym. There was a raffle. The winning student got to cut off Luc Despetit's ponytail. More than 500 tickets were sold. In the crowd were the parents of students taking the trip. Rob Goyette's and Alana McGoldrick's parents were there. They admit they're as nervous as their children.
We're hoping that she'll enjoy herself. There have been many trips to the doctor for immunization and whatnot. So we're kind of hoping that she has a wonderful time, and we'll be at home worrying.
As parents, we give them roots, we give them love, we give them support, and we give them wings. They've got to experience life.
I'd say maybe a third of the students that I've gone down, that I've taken down, over 60 students, I'd say a third of them have actually made career choices that are directly linked to Third World.
I feel like I may as well be there because it's a lot. It's overwhelming. It's a lot to think about because it's coming so fast.
4 hours after they started, the packing is just about done. And despite earlier fears, the weight of the boxes is just about right. For Luc Despetit and his group, the preparations are close to complete. And what they hope will be the trip of a lifetime lies ahead. Chris Goldrick, CBC News, Nepean.
Welcome back. A story tonight about young people making a difference. When 9 students and 2 teachers from St. Paul High School in Nepean headed south for the March break, they weren't like everyone else trying to escape the cold. The warmth they discovered in the Dominican Republic is much deeper than that, generated by an experience that will change their lives forever. Newsday's Chris Goldrick traveled with them and has this feature report.
At the airport in Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic, 9 Ottawa high school students and 2 of their teachers emerge into the plus 30-degree heat. They're not heading to a resort. They're starting a trip that's more of a mission than a vacation.
Feels good. A lot of work went into this, and we finally made it.
The group and their medical supplies clear customs. The gear is loaded into trucks. Even in the shade, it's extremely hot.
I'm gonna die.
It's a 3-hour ride from the airport to the interior. First stop, San Jose de Ocoa, a city of about 40,000 nestled in a valley. It's the supply center for the region. It's also a rich city compared to the villages in other parts of the region. In the surrounding mountains and valleys, communities are isolated. Medical supplies are scarce, water and food in short supply. Day 1 is spent here at the Arturo Center, a community center with a school and residence for visitors. Here, local children take classes. Father Lou Quinn, a Canadian Catholic priest, established the center. He coordinates the groups that come to work on relief projects in the outlying villages.
I think it's very beneficial to the communities. In fact, the people, like there's a need for solidarity. And these people come and they share the whole, many times, the tragedy of the communities as far as life's amenities are concerned, and they're exposed to how and other people live, and I think they can become voices for those that have no voice.
That's the other thing is.
Soon after arriving, the Canadians get their first taste of Dominican food.
Then at 2 o'clock we're supposed to meet Miss Today's, and we're going shopping for food.
Luc Despetit is the leader of the group. He's a teacher at St. Paul Catholic High School in Nepean. This is his 6th trip, leading groups of students to the interior of the Dominican Republic. For 6 months, the teens raise money to donate to development projects. Over the years, Canadian students have helped to build much-needed irrigation systems, homes, and schools. It's Sunday, and on the street outside the center, a local baseball team is parading to a tournament. The Canadians tag along and take in the game. Baseball is huge here. Many Dominicans, including some of the game's biggest stars, play Major League Baseball in North America. Many others dream of it. Back at the center, the Canadians are once again playing with the school kids.
It's fun. I love the kids. All the kids are very energetic and happy.
Students head into town to buy supplies to take to the village where they will be working.
Con leche?
They buy rice, fruit, and small quantities of meat. A man leads them into his backyard and gets his son to climb a tree to get the group some breadfruit.
I'm I was really surprised to see how well they took to the experience. I thought they were going to be a lot more discreet and be much more observant of these people.
Monday morning, the students leave San Jose de Ocoa and head half an hour to Bayona, a tiny village of about 50 families with very limited resources. This is an agricultural community. Farmers work the sandy soil growing vegetables, and it's here the Canadians will begin their work. Several families need new homes. The villagers take time away from working the fields. It's well over 30 degrees with no wind. None of the students has done this type of work before, but the villagers are patient.
I find them very friendly, always smiling. Like if you smile at them, they'll give a smile right back.
While one of the aims of this trip is to help with building projects, there's another goal, and that's to introduce the students to a people who have far less and whose lives are in many ways far more difficult.
It makes me sad to see that there's people in the world that don't have as much as I do. I kind of feel guilty about it. Well, everybody does, pretty much. But it's also amazing to see how much spirit they actually have in their lives.
Bunks have been set up in the town's community center. Mosquito netting covers the beds. Malaria can be a problem around here. But this evening, aching muscles and a few cuts and bruises are the only health concerns.
I'm not used to it. What?
That night, the whole town turns out for a celebration to welcome and thank the Canadians for coming.
Oh, that's good.
The next morning at breakfast, most of the students eat well except for Rob Goyette and Ryan Turner, who don't seem to have much of an appetite for the local cuisine.
I'm not a vegetable person, personally. I'll eat fruit, but not much vegetables. Yeah.
So is that a problem?
Yeah, that's all we have is vegetables. So it's pretty much a problem.
You get a late step, you're late.
It's back to work. It's 9 a.m. and already sweltering hot.
There's a lot of things that I'm sure I'll be more thankful for when I go home, like having a shower and stuff.
Misha Lully has been doing a lot of thinking. He's impressed with how tough the locals are and how welcome he's felt. He hopes this experience will change him.
Not think a lot about the things I have, but more about the people that I have in my life.
After cleaning up in the nearby river, the village children come to play. Tia Yuzik is spending as much time as she can with the kids.
I think I've become really attached to them. Like I finally know all their names, and I think it's going to be really hard to leave because I'm going to miss their faces even though I have pictures and stuff.
It's day 4 now. Some students are painting houses while others dig more foundations.
I'm still going. I'm good energy. Although it's probably because I ate a lot right before I left, so I still got some of it, you know.
Okay, I think we're
The
done.
work in the heat is taking its toll.
I'm a weakling. It's ashes.
Later in the afternoon at another work site, some local inhabitants have shown up.
What happened? Big mother of a spider is what happened.
Tarantulas. There are several. A sting would hurt but wouldn't kill. That's small consolation for Sarah.
I have to confess I wasn't going to tell, but I do have a bit of arachnophobia myself.
Some members of the group are feeling a little homesick. A North American meal isn't the only thing Ryan misses.
I haven't been away from home for so long. It's been years since I've really been away from home, and that was with my family.
But Ryan grabs his pick and goes back to work. He says he spent too much time preparing for this trip to let his emotions get the better of him. The students have a lot to be proud of, knowing they've helped 3 families get new homes. It's Friday, time to leave Bayona.
I was really happy to see that they went out to them as opposed to waiting for the Dominicans to come to them. This group has really been outgoing for that. They've been good for that. They've been excellent.
I think I should carry it.
The students still have another week in the Dominican Republic. but they're moving on to another region of the country. They will leave this town with a new appreciation for their own lives, as well as the lives of others.
I love it.
There's my feet in the corner.
So wonderful. It's incredible here. I'm gonna long to come back here when I get home because I'm gonna miss everyone I know.
It's hard to leave. These people welcomed us into their community, and we grew to it. We're attached to these people.
Chris Goldrick, CBC News in the town of Bayona in the Dominican Republic.
The students come home this Saturday. Newsday will follow up the story and talk to the students when they get back. Now they're back, and as Newsday's Chris Goldrick reports, they've returned with some strong feelings, not only about the lives of the people they visited, but about their own lives as well.
They've been back home in Nepean for over a week, but their thoughts are still in the Dominican Republic.
I liked it so much more down there. Like, everything was, I don't know, it was just, yeah, it was simpler.
Boom, I'm back here, thrown into classes and homework and extra stuff, and my mind's still pretty much in the Dominican Republic.
Jane and Thea are going to be working in that corner.
The trip was months in the planning.
We have good days and we have bad days, but they will continue to be bad days if you don't put the issues on the table.
Starting in September, the students met twice a week, preparing for the culture shock of visiting the Dominican Republic, a country where the living standards are far different than at home.
I feel it's really important for me to understand and for everybody to understand what living in a less fortunate situation is all about, and learning to be grateful for what you have. And
finally, after months of preparation, they arrived, bringing with them hundreds of pounds of medical supplies for the poor. The students headed to Bayona, a small agricultural town in the interior mountains. They went to work for a week, building homes and new bonds with the villagers.
I think I've become really attached to them. Like, I finally know all their names, and I think it's going to be really hard to leave because I'm going to miss their faces even though I have pictures and stuff.
It makes me sad to see that there's people in the world that don't have as much as I do. I kind of feel guilty about it.
It was hot, hard work, and there were surprises, like tarantulas. But for the kids and the villagers, the visit ended too soon. Leaving was hard. Coming back home has also generated a lot of strong feelings.
The other day at work, they were going to throw out produce that was like a little brown on one side. I was so mad. I'm like, okay.
Excellent.
I was so mad. And then this one lady was like, oh, I'll take it home. And they sold her like an entire box of stuff for $1. I was like, good for you.
I can't really find anyone who cares about it, who will let me talk about it the way that I want to. Well, not let me, but I'm finding it hard to find anyone who will care about it the way that I think they should.
Luc Despetit has organized several of these trips.
I always judge if the trip was successful by how uncomfortable they are when they come back here. And I think a lot of them are feeling that discomfort. And that tells me that, yes, they've been moved. And to what extent, I don't know.
It's pretty much made me just a lot more thankful and more accepting, I think, of differences, because, I mean, we were really lucky to go and see what it's like and become aware, but others aren't. Some of them just don't have the awareness of what's going on in the world.
Many of the kids would like to go back to the Dominican to continue the work and relive an experience they say they'll never forget. Chris Goldrick, CBC News, Nepean.
And earlier this afternoon, I had a chance to speak with some of the students who were part of the Goodwill mission to the Dominican Republic. They are Sarah Clark, Rob Goyette, and Thea Uzik. And Rob, first question to you. You told our reporter, Chris Goldrick, you weren't sure what you'd get out of this trip. What do you say now that you're back home? What kind of an impression did it leave?
Well, we saw a lot of things down there that were very different from here in Canada. The environment, people's attitudes, everything is a lot different. So I can't say right now that there's been any permanent change, but I'm going to have to take some time and let it all sink in.
Okay, Thea, what do you recall most about the trip?
Well, there were many images that stuck in my mind. A young boy helping his grandmother to a chair and a little girl in a pink dress. I especially remember the kids and their smiling faces. Like, they had such bright eyes and sweet smiles.
What did you think of the contrast of way of life in a developing nation versus the kind of life that you lead here?
I found like the warmness of the climate really affected the people's personalities. They were so outgoing and friendly. And here, when we came back, there was such a big snowstorm. And it was so quiet, and there was nobody to be seen. It was the complete opposite, I found.
Sarah, what sort of influence will the trip have on some of the choices that you still have to make about your life, career goals? What impression did it leave you with?
Well, before I left, I hadn't really come to any definite conclusions about what I wanted to do with my life, and I still don't know, but seeing what I did down there and working with the people, I got to feel like a career should be something that benefits the public, if possible, not only yourself. And looking at Father Lou, he does something that's, I think it's amazing what he's done.
Well, we're going to hear about Father Lou in a bit. I understand, Rob, that you're going to be making presentations to student groups. What are you going to tell them?
Well, yeah, we'll be doing presentations to some grade 6s as well as here at the school, and we've got a big one to the school board. And we're going to try and let them know as best we can what the trip was like and what the experience is like. Because when a lot of people think about the Dominican Republic, they think about resorts and beaches and that. And there's an entirely different side to that country, one where there's a lot of poverty, and we want to let them know that that exists as well.
Would you recommend this kind of outing and this kind of experience to your friends?
I would, but I think that they would have to be very committed. It took a real commitment for all of us to do this. We put a lot of time into it. And, but if anyone is seriously considering it, it was a great opportunity for all of us, and we're certainly never going to forget it.
Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
As mentioned, they met a very special Canadian priest while on their goodwill mission. Father Lou Quinn has had an impact on many lives. In 1953, he left Toronto for the Dominican Republic for what was supposed to be a short stay. 25 years later, he's still there, working with the poor, and has no plans to move back. Newsday's Chris Goldrick has this profile.
Every Sunday in the Catholic Church in San Jose de Ocoa, people from all over the region gather to hear the Word of God from a Canadian. Father Lou Quinn is originally from Toronto, but he's found his calling in the Dominican Republic. His masses are popular, but Father Quinn's Christian life and teachings reach far outside this place of worship.
Well, I came to the country in 1953. I came as a Scarborough missionary. Didn't know what I was going to be involved in. And right from the word go, I was very much involved in sacramental work, baptizing, marrying, and you did what you were supposed to be doing and told to do. But right from the very beginning, I felt kind of out of place, because you were, bringing sacraments to people who had other very basic needs.
The needs were and are far-reaching. 3 out of 4 Dominicans live in poverty. Most people don't have safe drinking water or enough food. Housing and medical care are in short supply. Most children get very little education, if any at all. In this region, Father Lou Quinn is known as guayacán. It's one of the toughest, most resilient trees in the Dominican Republic. And when you hear what Father Quinn has done and endured while living here, it's not hard to figure out how he got the name. On this morning, Father Quinn's first stop is at an irrigation project east of town. It's one of hundreds that have been built over the years. When Father Quinn first came here almost 45 years ago, the farmers watched their crops die in the fields because of drought. But organizing people to build irrigation projects was a dangerous proposition. The military government of the Dominican Republic didn't approve of the outsider or the interference of the Catholic Church. Despite this, Quinn went to work organizing poor farm workers. He brought them together, building homes and medical clinics.
Of course, all of them were accused of being communists. And so when we started to organize the people, these were the people that responded, because they're the ones that had felt need of, coming up with some kind of an answer to what the problems of the country were. And so right from the very beginning, all the people we became involved in really were all people who were belonging to radical revolutionary groups, and that made it difficult for us with the military forces.
Difficult and deadly. In 1965, Father Arturo McKinnon, a fellow Canadian and a friend, was killed by government troops. Father Quinn's life was also threatened when he hid farm workers from government forces. At one point, Quinn was forced to flee the country for several months when he heard he was going to be assassinated, but he couldn't stay away.
I began to love the people here, and you want to be very much part of what was happening.
These days, Father Quinn lives by himself in a small home attached to his church. It's also his office. From here, Quinn organizes work projects and raises funds. He gets money from many sources, including the Canadian International Development Agency. Quinn does get many visitors. When they come, they must keep up.
Are you going to put a cement roof on this?
Well, no, we're going to put a tin roof on it.
Father Tom Day, also a priest from Toronto, has known Lou Quinn for more than 30 years and visits often.
So when I first came down, there was just colossal problems of poverty, malnutrition, not enough food to eat, lack of water, no roads. He's very courageous. He never gives up. He's a person of great fortitude, and when he perceives something to be done and that there's a need, he goes forth and does it.
A week ago, Father Quinn helped arrange for 9 high school students from the Ottawa area to come here and build homes. This is just one of many groups of Canadian students that pay their own way here to help Father Quinn and the community. Dozens of new schools have been built. Medical clinics have also been established, even in remote mountain towns. But finding skilled people is a problem. This Dominican doctor was attracted here because of the need and Father Quinn's reputation.
We have a lot of people living in this community around this clinic.
Father Quinn's reputation is now international. Experts from around the world come to the region. People like Leslie Dominguez, a 25-year-old from Boston who is helping local people develop new farming techniques in a remote mountain village.
Some of it is incredible. Some of them have really learned to do some wonderful techniques, you know. And others of it is absolutely horrible, you know.
But Father Lou is slowing down. This 70-year-old used to love doing manual labor, but now he can't.
And you'd be stiff 2 or 3 days later. But this day I turned into a board. When I stopped, I stopped.
5 years ago, Father Quinn suffered a heart attack. In one of only a handful of visits back to Canada, Quinn traveled to Toronto to have heart surgery. There was another special trip to Canada in 1995, this time to be appointed to the Order of Canada.
I wonder how that happens. I think it's a question of having friends. I think, like, I married it and things like that, but the way it was proposed to me, too, that they would be very helpful to the community, in the future. I was thinking of, how you can orientate and support towards the community, and this was proposed in that sense. That's why I accepted it.
Today, Father Quinn faces more challenges. Recently, he's been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. He doesn't like to talk about it. He prefers other subjects, such as his new Dominican citizenship, and soon, for the first time, being able to vote in the country.
At this particular time, there's tremendous change in all the political processes. Like it's moving towards something very positive. But an opening up of possibilities. So I'd like to be very much part of that.
Chris Goldrick, CBC News, in San Jose de Ocoa in the Dominican Republic.